Welcome to the LDA Podcast, a series dedicated to improving the lives and education of all learners. In this episode, we talk to Zeigler Dendy and Dr. Ruth Hughes, who provide both personal and professional advice on helping students with ADHD and learning disabilities transition into adulthood.
Hello everyone, I'm here with Zeigler Dendy and Dr. Ruth Hughes. Dendy is a former educator, a school psychologist, and mental health professional with over 40 years of experience. She has authored the book Teenagers with ADD and ADHD, a guide for parents and teens with ADD, ADHD, and executive functioning deficits. And with her son Alex, she has also created a popular DVD titled Real Life ADD, ADHD, a DVD survival guide for children and teens. Dr. Ruth Hughes is a clinical psychologist and mother of an adult son with ADHD and LD. She is the former CEO of CHAD. Her and Chris both co-authored a book that's set to be released this year, Ready or Not, The Transition to Adulthood with ADHD. Thank you for joining me.
We're glad to be here. Thank you.
Great. So what do you know about brain maturity during the high school years and how the transition from high school to college or high school to the workforce is affected by brain maturity?
The brain changes dramatically all through childhood and continues to mature into your mid-30s. So we often think of adulthood when that doesn't happen, but it's not true. There's still a lot of changes going on. And for most teenagers and young adults, that's a period of where the brain is becoming increasingly more efficient. It's a time of high learning, risk-taking, trying new things. But if you have a disability like ADHD, there is a difference, and that there's really well-documented research that shows that the brain matures more slowly. Now, I want to be really clear that the brain matures, that our young people with ADHD get there, but it is a slower trajectory. So Chris and I like to think of our young men and a lot of people with ADHD as late bloomers because they definitely bloom.
And that was one of the things we didn't understand because we had gifted sons who were very bright, and we expected them to perform as a 15-year-old, not realizing that there was possibly a 3 to 5 delay in brain maturation, as Ruth explained, that's been documented by the National Institute of Health. And so we had to readjust our expectations, but we were slow in doing that. It's like we were the slow learners. We learned the lessons the hard way. And that's why we wanted to talk to you guys to help you benefit from the mistakes we made and the lessons that we've learned.
So the brain maturity lag on average for young people with ADHD is about 3 years. But the part of the brain that takes longest to catch up is the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for your planning, organization, common sense, learning, anticipation of consequences, all those things that are so important when you reach that transition into adulthood.
Great. So how would we see this in that transition to adulthood, this lagging of brain maturity?
Well, I guess it's what you'll see is that they don't seem as mature. They are not punctual about remembering and turning in homework, but you have some brain structural issues, not damage, and brain chemistry issues. And so we've done a lot more research on ADHD and the brain maturation than, for example, LD as it relates to brain maturity. But, for example, we assume a 12-year-old with ADHD can take the responsibilities of a 12-year-old. But brain maturity-wise, he's more like an 8-year-old. So teachers and parents alike are guilty of expectations that are unrealistic. So that's one of the main things that we do is educate them and say, look, these kids are going to need more supports than you think you should be giving them and that your teachers think you should be giving them. But you've got to do it because until their brain matures, they will need the extra supports. And of course, with us being professionals, we wear two hats. And this brain that was the professional brain's going, you're too involved. You need to let him fail and he'll learn. And then the mom's brain is going, you're crazy. That's just not the way it works, because they don't learn from punishment and rewards like other kids. So we will, for a good period of time, have to provide them more supports longer than their same age classmates, and not feel guilty about it, and hope that teachers and relatives won't make us feel guilty about it.
And this becomes very crucial when we talk about 18-year-olds graduating from high school. It's probably the biggest transition any young person makes. And we send them off into the world and expect them to be independent. At the same time, we take away all the structure and support. And that's just a awful combination if they're not ready. And so it's really important for parents and their young people, their teens, to really take a step back and assess and whether they're ready. And for me, if I had listened better, my son was telling me. He never filled out a college application, no matter how much I nagged him about it. He said, I'm just going to the community college, because I didn't give him any choice. I mean, I have a PhD. I'm sort of academically minded. Of course you're going to college. And the day, and I made the appointment for him to go to Disability Services and register. And I drove him there with him screaming at me the whole time. Now, if I'd been more tuned in, I would have heard him saying loud and clear, I'm not ready for this yet, Mom. Mm-hmm. And after spending 5 years at the community college, I got it. He knew all along that I got it. And we did a gap year then, and he came back ready to move on, and eventually graduated magna cum laude. But getting there took time. So he was my late bloomer.
I think one of the things that we learned, the lessons along the way, is we were rushing them before they were ready, and her message is right on target. You have to listen to what your child is telling you. And, there's this big, huge social push we, our parents, our kids are guilty of. You have to go to college right after high school. Well, that's not best for many of our kids, so don't rush them. Give them an opportunity to grow. And of course, Ruth and I have both, there are options, the gap year that she mentioned. And do you want to start with gap, or do you want to start with community college? Probably gap.
Well, one thing I want to say before then, the highest risk group of young people going to college, forget the disabilities, are people who go and drop out. Mm-hmm. They have a much poorer job trajectory moving forward as adults than people who never go to college in the first place. So it's very important that we think about how we can make this experience successful for our young people, which means waiting's the wrong word, which means giving them the gift of time. Mm-hmm. So if you take a year or two before you go, that's much better than going, crashing and burning, dropping out, and never wanting to go back again because it was such an awful experience. So one way of doing that is a gap year, and really, and there are many excellent gap year programs, but they cost money, mm-hmm. but so does college. And so it's an investment in our young people's future. But this is something that you can plan with your young person. And what I would recommend Chris and I talk about is that it's really important to use this year as a year of vocational exploration. You are much better off if you have some idea of what you want to do that interests you and excites you. And for many of our young people with ADHD and LD, if it's not interesting, it's so much harder. And so we really want to be sure that this is a time to really explore. And the sooner you start that, the better. We think you should start in middle school, but very much in that gap year time to explore various opportunities. Volunteer, do an internship, shadow somebody, do some vocational testing. There's so many different ways you can, part-time job that you can explore what are the areas that you might like. My son did an internship in teaching because he really loved being with young people. And he came home one day and he said, "Mom, I don't care what kind of side of the desk I'm on, I still don't like school." So he figured out that was not his path. And then he ended up a park ranger, which was perfect for him.
One of the things that we discovered along the way is there's this wonderful federal program called Pre-Employment Transition Services Training. And if you have an IEP or 504, somewhere around age 14, they'll sign you up, like how to do job interviews, how to dress, how to write resumes. And it's a service that we had no clue existed. And so if you have a child in high school, and about that age, then you could check into this to see if your son or daughter was eligible, because that lays a great foundation. And of course, she's listed all these wonderful clubs and that sort of thing, exploring. Parents can kind of tune in to what their kids like. All right, you are really good with computers, so you sign them up for computer classes. Or, you're really good outdoors, so let's sign you up for this outdoor camping or volunteering at a summer camp or whatever. So one of the things that I'll move on to here is we have looked at the advantages of combining a gap year with, the year of exploration, and also signing up for maybe one course at the community college. And what we've encouraged people to look at is what I call specialized professional training. And we want to elevate the topic, elevate the status of, it's not vocational training, it's a vocational college, because things are so much more technical now. They have to know computers, they have to know how to use equipment, they have to know how to think creatively. And what we found is that it takes less time, it's much less expensive. You don't graduate from there with this huge multi-million-dollar, I think I know one kid or two who has an $80,000 debt from 4 years of college. So, and those professions like auto mechanics and refrigeration and air, you're going to make $50,000 a year. I mean, it's a wonderful profession, and a lot of these people are better hands-on folks.
And a lot of apprenticeships today are moving into very new fields. Computer apprenticeships are beginning to grow by leaps and bounds across the country. And companies, large corporations, are unhappy with the college graduates they're getting as new employees, and so they're setting up apprenticeships specifically for what they're looking for. So they're doing the training for potential new employees. So apprenticeships is a wonderful place to explore.
There are a lot of places, schools, high schools around the country that are called career academies, and my sister teaches at one in Georgia, and they partner with Shaw Industries, who's one of the leading carpeting and flooring businesses in the world, and they have internships, and they train the students at school, and then they pay them. And the other thing we're seeing is that there are, anticipated million job openings for nurses and for other highly specialized and trained professionals, and you don't have to have a college degree to sign up for those. I mean, we know there's going to be a nursing shortage. Goodness, that's well on the horizon.
So we would encourage our young people with their parents to ask and answer a couple quick key questions. First, what is it you really love doing? Again, we don't want anybody thinking about a career just because they make money, but hating it for the next 40 years. So what is it you love doing? Number two, what is it you're good at doing? Because those two things aren't always quite the same, and you want a synergy where you've got both. Three, what are you not so good at? So if you're not good at math, you're not going to be in accounting or a financial manager somewhere. But what are the things that you're going to avoid doing because that's not your cup of tea? But we would suggest two other questions with that, which is the fourth one is, can you make a living doing this? Because if a lot of our young people would like to be basketball stars like Kobe Bryant or, a rock musician or an artist, well, just a realist, and it's not that we should discourage that, but a realistic look at what the chances are they'll be able to support themselves. And the fifth one is, what will the job market be 5 or 6 years down the road when I'm ready to go there? Because our world is changing so rapidly. So, for instance, right now we have a huge need for truck drivers. Well, 10 years from now with autonomous vehicles, that's going to change dramatically. So really just looking down the road at that. And there are excellent resources to help answer those questions. And the program Chris was talking about earlier, anyone who goes to their state Department of Rehabilitation asking about transition services for their high school student, that is the entry to those services that Chris was talking about.
One of the things I'd like to throw in is, you know, there are skills that some people call soft skills, but they're really critical skills. And these are sometimes skills our kids lack. Not being on time to work, not being organized, not planning ahead, not finishing assignments on time. So continued treatment into young adulthood is critically important. And in fact, I saw a survey of Georgia business leaders, and the critical soft skills were the reasons people were fired, not the quality of the job. But now I tell you who's the real expert if they're going on to college is Ruth, because she has the perfect job to know how to guide our kids through that process.
Well, I came out of retirement. I started to get a little bit bored, and I'm now working with students with disability at our community college part-time and just loving it. They teach me new things every single day. But one of the things I think choosing a college is really important, and typically we do it for the wrong reasons. That we do it because family members went there and there's sort of a legacy in the family, or it's got a gorgeous campus, or it's got a great reputation for being, you know, a really prestigious school. Those are not things that will help our students be successful. So we really want to caution parents to think about what your young person needs to have a successful college career. And that includes things like the size of the school and the size of the classes. Mm-hmm. For my young man, it really meant smaller classes, not going to school with 300 other students in one class, but really having that one-on-one involvement with professors and instructors and being able to be part of that. It can, making sure, of course, that a major that they have some interest because they've done their vocational exploration, but also really paying attention, is this a school or university that is more invested in research and prestige or more invested in actual teaching? And we want to send our young people to schools that the teachers are invested in teaching. It isn't just one more chore they have to do while they do their research. And we really want, I recommend small classes, looking at other services like the disability support services. I'm very lucky that I work at a college, Howard Community College, I have to do a shout out there, where our staff will go to the wall to help a student. But there are a lot of places the disability services is sort of a paperwork process. You need accommodations, okay, here they are. Now, next. Mm-hmm. We really want students to come back, to consult with us. We are there for them their entire time. I probably spend more time with students coming back in because they've hit a rough spot than with that initial accommodation. So making sure it's a good disability support services, good tutoring, that there is an investment in people graduating. Do you know the graduation rate in our country is below 50%? That is incredible. Mm-hmm. We want to make sure that there is a real concern about people moving forward and getting their degrees. At my school, we have all sorts of support programs. We have free counseling. We have programs for people who are moms going back to school, who are African American and going back to school, who are Hispanic Latino and going back to school, who are first generation students. I mean, we just have reached out in many, many different ways. So really pay attention to what's there. And that first semester, it's so easy to say, oh, I'm so proud of you. I know you're going to do great, babe. And then walk away and things go down the tubes and your young person is afraid to tell you. So we recommend putting all the supports in place the first semester. Get tutoring. Use the disability services. Make sure that you have everything you need. Take fewer classes in the beginning, 2, 3 tops that first semester. Then if you don't need things, you drop them away because you're doing fine. But you want to prevent the failure, and that's really important as you move forward.
I think one of the things that I wanted to kind of share is Ruth and I are perceived and have perceived ourselves and been by others as experts in this field. And then we had our children who humbled and taught us the real lessons in life. And so what we have wanted to do is share with the parents coming after us what we've learned. Mm-hmm. I mean, we would do by the book advice, and sometimes it would work and sometimes it wouldn't. I'm a mental health professional, former director of Children's Mental Health Services, school psychologist, and we were baffled why our kids couldn't meet our expectations. And so our joy now comes in sharing the lessons we've learned. My son is in his 40s, and I jokingly say he's happily married, has a job that he loves, and I can finally sleep well at night without worrying. Because in the high school years, you're like, oh my gosh, is he ever going to graduate from high school? Is he going to live with us the rest of his life? Will he ever get a job? And what most people don't realize is 2/3 of our kids with ADHD have something else. My son had ADHD, a learning disability of written expression, executive function deficits, anxiety, slow processing speed. So when you have parents that are as passionate as we are, it's typically because it's more complicated. And I think at least, I think this data is something like over half of our kids do have learning disabilities. So we share, all right, this is by the book advice, but if this doesn't work, then get real. And the other brilliant thing that Ruth did was develop this lovely survey for parents, because we went to our friends of 30 years from CHAD and LDA and said to them, tell us what lessons you've learned. What would you do differently? So this is a joyful book. Our ending chapter is going to be something like a book of hope, that this is Chris, her son, and now he's a park ranger, and this is the first black triathlete to compete, professional triathlete. This guy's a musician in New Orleans, and this is some 20 years later. Kids that we worried about that weren't going to make it. And so we're sharing the successes, and it's a book of hope. And we've done some training. We'll do training tomorrow here. And then we've done one in CHAD and had really good reception. Our parents are saying thank you for not making us feel guilty, that we are doing the right things, that even though people may call us names like helicopter parent, or you're too involved, or you're too overprotective, trust your guts. I mean, this parenting thing is not easy. Nobody gave us a guidebook. It's like walking a tightrope without a bar. Mm-hmm. So we love what we're doing. When you write a book, you go through this love-hate. So about a year and a half into it, we were both hating the book. And now I think we're falling back in love with it if we can just get it finished. So we hope within the next 6 months that it will be out, because it's our joy and our gift to share this with other parents so that their parenting experiences and the successes of their children will be more positive.
The one thing that came out of the survey that Chris mentioned that was so important is parent after parent after parent, and these are parents of adult children, looking back, asking them what they would have done differently or what they did that they thought was most important. And the resounding message was that how important it is to keep a positive relationship with your young person. Mm-hmm. We are human. All of us parents are. We have days that we're ready to pull our hair out, that we're ready to say, I give up, I don't know what to do. Do we need to kick him out? Do we need to, And limit setting is important. I don't want either one of us, we know limit setting is important. But having said that, the most important thing was that keeping that relationship with your young person positive and being the place they could always come when life threw them a foul ball, that they could come home, recover, but not just stay in the basement feeling depressed and anxious like a failure, but rather we're helping them develop the new plan right away to move forward. We're helping them get whatever treatment they need to address anxiety, depression, any of the things that happen when the world falls apart, and take those next steps and be there to support them. Communication and that feeling of being loved and accepted no matter what is absolutely key.
Russell Barkley, the leading international researcher in our area, talks about providing a safety net. And that's what you want to do. And Ruth and I agree wholeheartedly on this. The unconditional love you give your child and acceptance for who he is may one day save his life.
And we don't say that
I can speak to
mildly.
that from personal experience because I've had my son sit and cry and say, you know, I wish I were dead, just could go to sleep and never wake up. But if I didn't know how much you loved me, I would never do that.
And that is true so many of our young people, particularly at these very vulnerable period from 18 to 25. It's a really tough period. And we both had those experiences where it just felt like the world was crashing down on our sons. And today...
Today, they are awesome.
My son Christopher, as opposed to Chris, my co-author, he feels like he won the lottery. He's got the best job in the world, and he's doing really well. They talk about his supervisors say, he'll be a supervisor soon at the rate he's going. So that's I think the last message we'd like to give all parents. Is that where you are in the moment with your young person is not where they're going to end up. That they continue to mature, they continue to grow, their executive functioning deficits get better. It may not disappear, but they get better. That brain maturity continues to go on. They get life experience, they get some wisdom along the way, they learn coping skills, and as long as we're continue to be there for them when we need them, when they need us, or when we need them. I think that's an older person's faux pas there, Chris. That they do bloom, and it just is not going to be on anybody else's time schedule but their own.
So thank you for sharing your successes. In parenting, it sounds like you've raised two exceptionally young men and who are contributing very much to the world now. And I thank you for sharing personally your own struggles, because I think many of our listeners, parents, feel these struggles, and there are moments in parenthood where you feel like you're at the bottom and why was I chosen to be this person's mom? Like, I know that from my own experience. So I thank you, because I think it resonates with many of our listeners. So I appreciate you being here today and giving us your time to really disclose a lot of your personal life with us and give us a sense of hope, which you said your last chapter of the book also we'll talk about. So yes. We eagerly anticipate that coming out as well.
And the book coming out is Ready or Not, Transition to Adulthood with ADHD. We hope it'll be out summer 2020 or maybe fall. We're getting close.
It's that love-hate relationship with writing, right?
Just look for our name on the book, because it's going to say Launching into Young Adulthood. But it's, the thing is, we finally have hope. Our kids are doing well, and we want to share that joy and love and the lessons we've learned with other parents so that their jobs don't have to be as difficult as ours was. And thank you for inviting us.
Great. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the LDA podcast. Our theme music is Little Idea by Scott Holmes. This series is made possible by the Learning Disabilities Foundation of America. In our next episode, we'll talk to Sharona Summers, a certified professional coach and director of learning for the College Internship Program National, about strategies that help with executive function. For more resources from LDA, visit ldaamerica.org.